morning, good afternoon to everybody. We will jump in and get started today. Welcome back to our monthly community calls. We meet the first Wednesday of every month from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time. Last month I gave you a reminder to ask your Valentine. This month, the only reminder I can give you is get to an Irish pub on March 17th. That's all I can suggest for you. Tell your bosses, ImmyBot said you need a half day. See how that goes for you. But enjoy this bearded ImmyBot as we move into the month of March. This year is flying by for me. I don't know how anybody else feels, but the days and the weeks are moving quick. So without further ado, just introducing the team, Tara and Kayla. Kayla is the newest member of our team. She is Community Engagement Manager, which was previously my role. I'm moving into more of an account management role starting on Monday. So if you have anything that's come up, billing, account related, I'm now more formally your girl, although you can always come to the community team, any three of us, if you need anything. But Kayla and Tara are on site at Zero Trust World in Orlando, Florida. So they will not be on today, but I am really excited to have Kayla join our team. We pulled her over from the MSP side. She did 100 things there, but the most of her work was as the dispatcher. So she has a lot of knowledge of what it feels like to work day in and day out in the MSP. And so that will bring a lot of knowledge and a clear understanding of how she can support you guys. So we will properly celebrate Kayla joining the team when she is not on the road, but as we do here at ImmyBot Trial by Fire, the first week into the new role on the show floor. Best way to learn the product and the customers by being there. So sweet. So as I said, Immy is currently in Orlando, Florida. We will be going next week, myself and Tara, to IT Nation Europe in London. If anybody will be there, our next community call will be April 1st. And then we will be at Enable Empower in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in April 13th through the 15th. And then we head into pretty busy May and June with a quieter July and August. So I'm sure we'll see you guys at shows moving forward if you aren't going to these, but that's where we will be through March and April. I can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not, but the first of many onboarding videos have been posted to the doc site. The docs site, which I will get into in a second, has also moved. So it previously was docs.immy.bot. Now you can find it at immy.bot under the resources tab, which I actually think I have here. Yeah, it's under technical docs now. So that's kind of nice. It's all in one place, keeps us all organized. But that's where all of that will live moving forward. But if you have any new technicians on your team, or as you get new technicians, this is each video is maximum, I think, 3 minutes, 8 videos total, and it really walks you through the very, very, very early stages of get into ImmyBot, unboxing computer, setting up a new computer, sending your first deployment. So it's really, really, really a great place to send your team to start. And as I said, we'll continue to be building out this series with more complex issues as we move into that. So doc site moved, Emmy.bot. Mark just sent the link in the chat. Thank you for that. Not a lot of reoccurring themes for tickets last month. Lots of closed tickets. SLA is still sitting between 5 and 6 days. So nothing substantial to report from support. We're just keeping it moving. Here are some notable bug fixes. If anybody had anything that they were really anxious about and wanted to know an update on, I'll leave this up for a second for people to scroll through that. I don't know that anything in here was super, super pressing. And then product recap of what we're working on in February. I'll add color to a couple of these. You can read through the list. One of the big things is the Getting Started wizard, which will be awesome. This will help with those first steps in IMMY. The goal is pretty simple, help new users get oriented without feeling overwhelmed. We're updating the UI in general, but specifically to ensure that there's clearer and cleaner ways to navigate. A lot of you probably again are through these intro steps, but if you're onboarding new team members or clients into IMMY, this will be a noticeable quality of life improvement. And again, these are all work in progress, things that the team's actively working on, not things that are currently available. So this is things to look forward to. The agent UI, you're going to see much more visibility and control over agent tasks. We're also improving how we handle reboot notifications, so things feel less disruptive and more predictable for your clients. We had a lot of people that were reaching out about um, persistent reboot notifications on the end user's computers. So we're working towards a solution for that, which hopefully should lead to less angry tickets on your boards. Software or onboarding detected software. This one will be able to use existing software, even if the deployments you set up don't technically cover it. Um, let's see what else is
I think
exciting.
that I think that's worth it. That's worth elaborating on.
Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, so this is what I've wanted for a while. The concept is you've got a new computer you're setting up. It might be for an existing user. It might be for a new user, but let's say an existing the software that that person needs, and they don't have it, right? And yeah, to them, they're going to tell you, "Hey, you had access to my old computer. Why did you just look at what I had installed?" Right? And it's like, well, yeah, probably should have done that. Right. So that's essentially what this is doing. It's looking up the user and it's looking at their existing machines, software inventory, and then anything that is capable of installing, it will suggest on the onboarding screen. We're also adding a feature to select like a based off of a different user. So maybe this person is replacing someone, or maybe they're just expanding a department. Hey, give this guy the same software as this other guy. Okay, cool. So like base the software off of that person and then show all the software from that machine, and then you'll be able to create deployments for that software right there so that it the software gets installed during the session. Yeah, there we go.
That sounds sweet.
That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Intuitive IMMY is where we're trying to get this robot to really be working for you in every way.
Just wait till I'll slap AI on this bad boy. All right. Yeah, I don't even know.
We'll get into that in a little bit. The billing widget overhaul, this has been something that's been brought up enough for us to work on. But the billing side, we're overhauling the entire experience. So you'll be able to continue to manage in-platform your billing, but the charge modal that we're building is going to be a lot more intuitive and user-friendly. So you can self-service, change, upgrade your instances, update your payment, all that. Let me see what else is worth noting here. UI updates we've already talked about a little bit, but there was a big feature request to tackle the ability to set default region settings, mostly coming from the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So we're working to get region appropriate formatting. Warranty info. That one's also exciting with the PSA sync. Do you want to talk about that, Darren?
Yeah, we could actually probably use a little help from you guys on this. We are we had working Dell API keys, and then they stopped working. And we need to find somebody at Dell and someone at HP that is responsive and can help get us these API keys. I've talked to other vendors that have implemented similar functionality, and evidently it just takes a lot of persistence to get these things. And the crazy part is that I had this working back in 2019, and then HP shut down their APIs for like 4 years, and then they finally turned it back on, but then getting access to them is problematic. We have it working for Lenovo. We had it working for Dell, but then the API key stopped working, and then HP has been relatively elusive. So we're working on it. But if you guys have good contacts with these vendors, then that would be helpful because both Dell and HP seem to want, or sorry, HP and Lenovo seem to want you to have a like customer rep, which we have a Dell one, and I gave them. Though we have an HP one, and I gave them that person's name, but then nothing happened. I don't know. I just need somebody whose neck I can choke to get these API keys. That's what I need.
What are you trying to accomplish with these API keys? What will this change in IMMY for the partners?
Well, we'll be able to have warranty info. The Cybertrade stuff we did. It's funny because back in 2019, Kelvin and I both had the same problem and had looped him in on an email chain with like the HP guys trying to figure it out. And evidently he was persistent and eventually figured it out. I am trying to also figure it out. So there's right now we kind of have like two competing initiatives because there's this notion of SIPPYBot where we're like, oh, maybe we could just pull all the stuff from SIP. And that's one option. But then the other thing is, well, man, we already implemented this stuff. If we just had API keys, we could just do it ourselves. So it's not like we're not trying to spite him. It's just like we didn't even think of that until we already had the working logic. And so anyway, it's
It
kind of
might
like in
iterate
flux.
into that, but if
It
anybody
could go
has
both ways.
contacts,
It may be
let
an
us know.
optional thing. But here's what this got you. A prerequisite for this working has been a feature that everyone's wanted for a long time, which is being able to sync computers into your PSA. So, years ago, the initial request was, hey, you guys do a pretty good job with this user computer affinity thing, but when I go into manage and I look at the configurations for computers that are synced in from Automate, I end up with a username that it is not able to really map the contact well, right? So the idea was, well, maybe we could sync computers into the PSA, and and since we have access to the API, we can resolve like the email address that you've got for existing contacts, against Azure, so we've got access to that. Then we can reliably associate existing contacts to the machines that we sync in. That's the idea. So, if anybody out there is actually still using ConnectWise products, then that'll work. But we're also going to do it for Halo, so you'll be able to map it. And the Halo one is actually pretty cool. We're going to get pretty granular with how the mapping works. I hate that we have to do it like this, but unlike Manage has this like managed workstation configuration type that's sort of like what everybody syncs to, but Halo does not appear to have that. Everybody's kind of creating their own, which is annoying. So we had to get really granular with how the mapping works. But to me, this is like ripe for like a little AI magic button where it's like, hey, just map these fields for me kind of thing. But anyway, we're working on it. We actually have a pretty cool UI we could show. I don't know if we're prepared to demonstrate it on this call, but I got to see it earlier this week and it looked really nice.
You can look into that. I would love to show it if I don't know what dev is working on that could do a show and tell. Sweet. I think a lot of this uh yeah, a lot of under the hood work and the ImmyBot UI overhaul we have talked about. We're just giving it a little bit of a glow up, making it a little bit more intuitive. Right now, like things can be green, blue, pink, yellow, purple for any reason. So just adding some logic to that so it's a little bit more intuitive. When you've selected something, especially when you get into like filtering some of those deployment computer task pages. It's nice to know what filters you have selected and what's going on. So big huge changes there. The biggest thing though for this month is RBAC is here. I don't know if you guys know about that little thing.
Finally.
It is finally here for everyone. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, people just need to update their instance if it hasn't already updated to the newest release that came out. So, is anybody in our back already? Has anybody been playing around with it? Any early feedback? I know it like literally just got released, but thank you, Derek. It's in 7.8. I saw Trey was on the call. Trey's been in it for a while. We've heard what he thinks about it. But I was interested to see if anybody else had gotten in there and played around yet. Okay. keep going. We're excited about that. Let us know if you run into any questions, comments, concerns as you and your teams start to go in and assign roles and create workflows around that. Automation madness. So Trey, you're the best. Automation madness is here. So we're kind of going to take this two ways. We're hoping to get enough submissions to do a LinkedIn Live kind of battle of the workflows, battle of the automations. But in the event that we do or don't, we're going to still be doing an automation madness pre-day at which event? MSP Geek. So what this means for you guys is if you or anybody from your team is traveling to MSP Geek, we're going to do an hour long workshop where we talk about what goes into creating a good workflow, why you would automate something, how to automate something, how to talk through the value prop of automating and the resources to your leadership team, and then also how to tell the story of time savings, resource savings to your leadership team. So that's going to be led by some of the people at SIP, ImmyBot, ZenTop Consulting, Roost, Rocket Fuel Factory. Jason Slagle from CyberRise is going to be there as well. So it is like really the Avengers of MSP automation will be in the room to help you guys really, really hone in on those skills. And then we would advise that you bring a workflow that you're either really excited about or an idea of a workflow that you want to build. And we'll have time for you to start building out those automations with the assistance of all of these companies. And then we'll do a little bit of a live open mic, and then we'll do some fun voting and give out some superlative trophies of most negative time savings and simplest workflow and different fun superlatives like that. But really, if any of your teams are traveling to MSP Geek, it's a really, really good opportunity to learn how to go from being an automation wizard to being a leader in your business. So we're looking forward to that. I will drop the link in the chat after the call, and I'll also send it in our notes. I don't want to pull it up while I'm got my screen shared. Who knows what I'll end up sharing. Logan, I kind of forgot about this. I hope you remember. I put you in my PowerPoint, and I know we talked about it last week, but Logan, this is not a real photo of him in case you're wondering. If he's prepared, now that I'm putting him on the spot, he's gonna walk us through an automation that he has built recently. Logan, are you with us? Yay,
Yes,
you're
I
a big
am.
bird.
Yeah, I've got everything ready. I just wasn't expecting to be first, but that's okay.
We gotta save the best for first. You know, that's how
Well,
the saying goes.
I
all
appreciate
no
the
hell from
compliment.
here. Is there any way I could get permission to screen share?
Yes, I'm like so proactive on planning these calls, but like overly proactive that I forget what I even have planned to the moment that we're doing them. Let me make you a presenter. All right, Logan, you should be able to share your screen.
Perfect. I have so many things to try to include in the meeting. I really can't blame you for getting overwhelmed with it. Right. I'm not going to take the thing. I see. This is a honestly relatively simple deployment, but it has a very large impact across all of our clients and us internally. So we can just go through the deployment screen real quick here just to get the rough idea of it. But this is a workflow that targets Defender suggestions. So if you've ever been in the Defender portal, we can take a look at that in a little bit here. In the recommendations section, a lot of the time they will like post notice about what things you could be doing with your devices to make them more secure that you aren't already. So we really like to just take those suggestions and slap them right in this deployment. So we have a good bit of detail about what the control actually does, some registry information, and then just direct control over it.
So anytime we run into one that is not already addressed by something else, so like another ImmyBot deployment, Defender settings, Intune settings, because we do deploy those as well, then we'll add it in here. There are a lot of options, and we won't go through all of them because it's a bunch of security nonsense, and I will be sharing the scripts so you guys can take a look later. Diving into the actual code. So this is honestly a pretty simple combined script in my opinion. So the fanciness is mainly done with markdown formatting in these parameters here. I like to format everything with code backticks so that it's nice copy pastable. So we basically define all of the options for every single one of these guys, and after that, we jump into one of my favorite functions in ImmyBot. So this is a very simple way to do desired state config on your reg keys. So because most of these things are simple reg key enforcements, we can put the local machine registry key in here, set the parameter to these definitions we have up here, and essentially tie it to a Boolean. It's pretty simple. We do have a couple extra ones down here with a custom script that I added, or a custom function that I added. I think someone on the IMMY team was something that does the same. Yes, this is very simply going to do DSC against the machine for Windows features. Yeah, it's not a very long script at all.
Are we doing code review?
If you want to, I'm not against it. I know this.
Open up.
Do
this. Okay, do this. Open up the configure duo script. That's an old but good one.
Okay.
Configure dash duo. So here's what I like about this. So look at the first things at the top. What we're doing is we're essentially giving you options. We're not bothering the user. Okay, we're not bothering the user with having like a description of like what 0, 1, and 2 does. We're giving them like a drop down with what the option is, right? So a little more work on the script side, but I think a little bit better of an experience for the user, not having to manage the values. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That is, yes. If we go back here, there are a lot of moments here where, okay, well, what does 240 do?
Yeah. So,
Right. Because like if you think about the policy editor back in the day, like it did the same thing, right? It's like enable or disable, but then that's going to map to like a 0 or a 1 or whatever under the hood. So that's what I was trying to emulate when I wrote that script.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I might give myself an hour or two to iterate on it after this call. Yeah, awesome.
It would be really cool. The only thing I don't like about how I did it here is that I'm doing like a literal like string match on the on some of these things. I think. Let me see. I haven't actually looked at this thing in a really long time. It actually looks a lot cleaner than I even remember it. But I remember there being like essentially I had to look at whatever it was that they selected the string and then kind of map that back. But I think it's a little bit easier to do nowadays where because we do have those like drop down parameters that you can use. So how sick would it be if instead of like doing each one of those as like a well, I guess you are doing it as a parameter. If you actually leveraged like the dynamic parameters and did the drop down style, you know what I mean? And so that way, by the time it's injected into your script, it's already the value it should be because you could bind a hash table to that. That was one of the features. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but
no, you're good.
That way, because dude, your script would go from what you've got to like nothing. And then what would be even sicker would be if we actually had defined a like a registry manipulation dynamic parameter. You can even make a function around it if you wanted to use a dynamic param block. But so that way it's like if it does map to a specific registry value, you could just have that as a parameter to the parameter factory, right? And then so okay, this path in this property name, here's the value, but then here's like the string representation of it. It becomes a drop down, and then like at execution time, we just auto run that like registry should be for you. All right, that requires a backend code change probably, but the rest of it would still clean it up. All right. Anyway, sorry.
I love building applications and applications, man. It's the best.
Sit. Yeah. Yo, dog. I heard you like code, so I give you code to write code.
I gotta say, no one brings the enthusiasm like Darren. It's always impressive.
I love it. This is what I do, right? It's like, okay, that's cool. All right, but think about this. Like everybody on the team is like, can't we just have the win?
All right, I do have
We'll
this
never
on
have
my
to win.
I do have this on my GitHub, so I'm gonna post this in chat once I manage to get the window back at some point. There we go. So yeah, if you want to load this in as let me see if I can get to the right spot. Tasks. I don't have anything fancy in here. And I am fumbling. That popped open a new window. Here we are.
It's always fun to share your screen, and my favorite sessions I've been to at a conference is somebody live demoing. Like I think if you hear that someone's live demoing, you should always go. You never know what you might see, what you might find, what might break. You get to learn a lot about the jokes that they have in their repertoire that they're going to pull out to break the awkward silence while they figure it out. It's awesome.
Hey, at least I had the forethought to turn on PII mode. I'm thankful for that.
No, nice.
All right, so to
We admire
configure
your
this,
bravery.
that's no big deal. Configuring this is honestly super easy. You turn on use script param block so you don't have to define any of that yourself. Then you come down here and you select the combined script that you then paste into the ImmyBot script editor. So getting this running in your own instance is super easy. And like I showed previously, getting new items into this script, all you have to do is define a parameter, come down here, and then add another one of these lines that looks for the path and uses the parameter you defined. And just a quick look at what honestly, this changed quite a lot since I was last in here. It's been about 6 months since I edited that script. So I will get a guide together on how to actually get the recommendations from Defender with the reg keys present from my security guy, and I can include that in the notes of the script on GitHub. So yeah, does anyone have any questions about how this works or what it does?
Have you had any negative ramifications for applying all their recommendations, or so far has everything been a Microsoft recommended it and we like it too? It's working out.
There have definitely been issues. One thing I will call out explicitly is if you use Azure Virtual Desktops, very many of these enforcements will break either FSLog, background credential adding for trying to do FSLogix over Entra, or generally things trying to run with the AVD agent in the background. So
Wait,
be very mindful.
Tell me about that background credential loading with FSLogix.
We're not going to talk about that until Entra releases their their native ACLs.
But I'm curious what issues you ran into. First of all, I didn't even know that was a thing. One, two, what is it?
So, FSLogix sits inside of a file share, and when you do not have a hybrid environment or any kind of domain controller, you don't get very good ACLs whatsoever on that file share. So the way we kind of have to work through that is we grab the storage account key and then we add it into a credential manager, like basically setting it up
Right.
as
Yeah,
an
I've
MV file
had to
share.
do that before. Yeah. Okay.
One of the recommendations is credential guard. So all those get ripped out if they're inserted through PowerShell. And yeah, your FSLogix share will no longer bind to the AVD.
Is that okay?
Or
That's
no,
not
sorry.
what I thought it was. Okay. So credential guard gets turned on, and part of it turning on is okay. Yeah. All right. Never mind. I get
There are a
that.
couple of other things that I honestly could probably pull up our deployment that has AVDs in it, but I don't know if there's anyone after me to be mindful of time for.
No, you're good.
Okay. Um, so we can actually look in here and see what is overridden. Disabled domain creds, which I believe is part of Credential Guard. No, I have that enforced through Intune. So Credential Guard is also a recommendation that would show up in Defender. We do not have it in this list. We have it handled through Intune and excluding AVDs through Intune. But disabled domain creds has a very, very similar effect of not letting you add those credential manager credentials. They don't persist well. I think actually they get completely blocked on add, but regardless, we did have to exclude this control specifically in the script we have. But yeah, just be mindful of what these actually do. That's why we have C documentation links on all of them. So none of them are blindly enforced.
Got it.
All right. I think that's all I have for today. Unless there are more questions.
I think there is one from Eric. How is everyone managing Windows Store apps? I'd love a way to define, update, only approve store apps and remove all others. Anybody have thoughts on that?
And get
Mm.
We really need to have better support for Windows Store apps. There is the ability to remove a Windows Store app from the system context from all profiles. That was added a few years ago. It's a very simple PowerShell command. I don't remember precisely what it is, but
Provision package.
remove provision package. That's it. Yes, you nailed it. So that can help there, but it would be nice if we had like a first class port for everything on the Windows Store. Like it kind of like we pull in things from Chocolatey. It would be neat if we could pull things in from the Windows Store. I had not been able to find a reliable API for that, although I do believe one exists if we subscribe to the right like partner thing with Microsoft. Um, I don't have a whole lot of information on that. It can be scripted though. Hold on. Was a question here.
Is there an option with the get user consent script that delays maintenance instead of canceling?
Oh, we're literally actively working on this. In fact, where's Terry? Is Terry here? No, he's supposed to work about it. Yeah, this is a known issue. So this would be like a two-phase thing. So first, we're gonna make an update to the reboot script that allow that. So the initial complaint wasn't what you're talking about. The initial complaint was our little like prompt can be too easily hidden behind other windows. It's not like aggressive enough. So we're gonna be making some changes to it that essentially it has a little timer in the background. It keeps pushing itself to the front. It'll blink the taskbar, some things like that. We had another customer kind of contribute that, so we're gonna be working that in soon. But the bigger change is that we're working in a proper UI to our agent, which Anna kind of alluded to at the beginning. So this is a little bit bigger of an undertaking where we're going to be adding a Rust component to our agent that we're using this framework called Tori that allows you to run like basically a web app on top of like native code. And it works really well with the front end code that we have. So we're going to be able to share all the same sort of UI styling into our agent. So some of the things that we're going to be able to do, let me see if I could share a picture because maybe I was giving us a screenshot the other day, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the capabilities that we're going to have from the agent itself. Let's see if we can find it. I have it. No, I do not, unfortunately. But yeah, the idea would be that we're going to be able to, because right now we're drawing that whole WinForms thing in PowerShell, which is gross, and from our perspective, it's really hard to maintain because it's not really part of the core repo, which is like a larger problem. Right? Like global need to not necessarily be in Postgres database anymore. It needs to be part of a Git repository, and we need to be able to have people do pull requests against it so that you're not copying people's scripts from GitHub manually into your own instance and having to wire it into your own task. Like these things need to be contributable. That's a separate concern altogether. The bigger thing here is that we want the agent to have a UI that you could track like what's going on. So it's okay, I have the following things, because a lot of times you get that reboot nag and you say, okay, yeah, it's cool to reboot now. And it will just like keep rebooting and you're like, what the fuck? Or you don't know that there's more, like how many more times you need to reboot my machine. Oh, I don't know. So it would be cool if you had a list of like, hey, we've got, the following applications, so they could kind of see on the agent side how many things are left. So we have, they have an idea of like when they'll be able to use their computer again, instead of just kind of getting nagged persistently, which is really annoying. So like that whole life cycle of communicating with the end user is something we've neglected for entirely too long. So that's how we're going to do it, and that's the bigger fix. But we're at least going to make the current nag a little bit more effective, and part of that is going to be adding deadlines for certain actions on the session. We're also doing this thing where we're considering having the notion of like an open session where, okay, we're going to be collecting actions that happen periodically through inventory, and we're going to say, okay, some of these things can be done without interrupting the user. So we could just, as needed, update Notepad++ or whatever, because they're not using it and it doesn't require a reboot or anything, but that other things could be saved until the actual maintenance session. That's another ask that we've had. So just get a little bit more persistent and I guess opportunistic about doing patches than just like, nope, everything happens at this time where your laptop is probably in your bag. So all of that is actively being planned out right now because it's been a problem for way too long, and we spent way too much time on these calls talking about it. So yeah, I'm excited that we're finally starting to make progress.
Sweet. Me too. Okay, we have about 20 minutes left. So Tim, who's on this call watching Field, sorry about this in advance because you're about to sit through it for the second time. But I don't know if many of you are familiar or not with Channel Program, but they do what is called a channel meeting, and essentially allows vendors to get an hour of time with senior MSP owners and service leaders. And so we took to them the idea of what would it look like for the next generation of monitoring? Like that is the piece that's missing to make ImmyBot and RMM. And if we did want to move in that direction, what does best in class look like? What are your frustrations? What are your annoyances? All those sorts of questions. Those people, aside from Tim, were not ImmyBot users, which is exactly what we wanted. We wanted to know what people are using right now outside of ImmyBot. Without any context, we just wanted like main feedback. But I wanted to bring to this group kind of what we learned in asking some of those key questions and just ask for some feedback through the lens of Immy, since a lot of you are power users and most of you are familiar with the product. So let's see where we want to start. So first, the things that came up in the conversation as like what I would call the top three things is smart monitoring layer, which means highlighting root causes of slowdowns, a trend dashboard, and automated collection of logs plus context snapshots tied to the tickets. The other one was intelligent noise reduction, auto classification of alerts, recommendations on what to mute or promote, and pre-built alert profiles, best practice MSP starter pack, just to kind of help people start somewhere. And the last one, when we'll get into this, we were talking about like what is next, and we have a long conversation about AI. But the big things that came out of that is thoughtful human in the loop AI. So AI suggestions inside the tickets. Here's what's wrong. Here's what might cause this problem. But people on that call, and I think maybe in this group too, were a little more on the automation side, less on this AI side. So I'm interested to see what you guys think. But to start, we got a lot of different answers to what integrations are you using to monitor. Obviously the most common one was RMMs. A lot of people on Ninja One, Halo, ConnectWise, Enable, Synchro was up and was a part of the conversation too, which I was surprised. People were using automation tools like Roost, CyberDrain, i.e. SIP or Cal, Roost, and Zomentum, and then custom dashboards built via APIs. I was wondering if anybody has anything outside of that list that they're currently using to monitor from an integrations perspective.
Uptime robot.
Would you say Uptime Robot?
Yeah.
What is your experience with that? What do you like and not like?
Well, we primarily use it just for up-down stuff for the most part. Just because we're monitoring MSPs servers,
Mm-hmm.
and their RMM servers. So it works really well when you configure it correctly.
Sweet.
But it's primarily up down and service monitoring.
Okay.
So wait, but is this going to be like a turtles all the way down thing where it's okay, so you've got Uptime Robot monitoring an RMM, which does monitoring for agents, and then ImmyBot is going to monitor the monitor, and then what's going to monitor ImmyBot?
Right. But I would think that ImmyBot being outside of anything, like being its own thing, could be an uptime robot.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what I was getting at. Like, what would we need to do so that you wouldn't need Uptime Robot anymore? Right.
Yeah, it would be able to not like agentlessly monitor a a set of ports and IP addresses that are responding or not responding.
Got it. Okay. All right, easy.
Sweet. And then the things with those integrations, which I'm interested to see, I know that I'm talking to a bunch of automation experts, but when you think about your teams, a lot of what was mentioned on this call was tools like Roost or CyberDrain are powerful but require a dedicated resource or an outside consultant to really get up and going. I know you guys have probably a lot of you on this call have been that consultant for your MSP. Um, but I'm interested to hear from people who have onboarded Roost CyberDrain how they found the onboarding experience at ImmyBot relative to the onboarding experience for those from a technical perspective. Was ImmyBot more or less intuitive? And do we need to fix some of that, especially for adding in monitoring?
I think it's worth noting that probably a lot of people here have may not even remember their onboarding experience because they've been around for
It
a
was so
while.
long ago. Your onboarding
We got some lifers on this call. I might have been the guy doing it, right?
Yeah, we got our Emmy Forevers on here. Okay, let's move on to the next question then. Uh, okay, this is the one I really want to get into with y'all. Like, what's next in monitoring from your in the opinion of this group? Like, what is still missing? What's still annoying? What do you dream of when you dream of better monitoring?
I mean, if I had my way, it'd be that the agents would be like webhooking out to a server, not the other way around.
Mm,
Like an immediate response versus having to poll, and then you could action against that based on how many times it hooks to the server.
Right. Yeah. Put whatever polling loop you need on the agent itself for sure. Yeah, like remote monitor concept and automate.
Yep.
And any monitoring platform really. Yeah, agreed.
I'm wondering how you guys are currently handling another conversation that came up on this is like the conversation around proactive versus reactive monitoring. And there was a big conversation around like not having a proactive board of alerts, but not having a proactive team. And that's where some of that trend analysis, like being able to take a snapshot of what's happening with the computer beyond just the exact moment, but to kind of do some of the trend analysis of, is this every month around payroll, is this computer spiking uh, due to an event, or is it an isolated incident? But there was a big conversation around like the future of monitoring is proactive response versus reactive monitoring.
Well, I'm not as familiar with monitoring stuff because I'm not an MSP user, but one thing that I would like to see is kind of like some desired state monitoring stuff where it's like, hey, we want this thing to be running this thing. If it's not, try and fix it. And if it can't fix it, then we wanted a ticket coming into our system that we can intervene. Because we run into that a lot with some of our servers where it should be running this service, but we don't really find out until a user complains, hey, I can't log into this thing. And it's like, well, hey, if the monitor can actually restart the service for us, and then if it fails, that's when I want to go and intervene, not necessarily get spammed with alerts because the service is down and then have to go and
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah, I agree. That to me, the next generation of monitoring, like I know I'm gonna keep talking about AI only because I've had so much success with it for like solving a lot of these technical problems. To me, like the proactive monitoring side, at least, as an MSP owner, has always been extremely hard to find time for people to go out and do it when like, you've got so many fires to put out. And what I found is when we wired up our incoming tickets, especially the monitoring ones, to AI and allowed it to go and do some of the triaging, where it could go and look up the older tickets, it could go and look on other servers or other machines to see if other people were experiencing the same problem to prove that it might be a policy configuration, versus an individual machine problem, gave the technicians something a lot more actionable by the time like they got around to it. And I think that's where a lot of us fall off because you get these monitoring alerts. It's like, okay, the service crashed. Okay, well, now I got to go and find where the log is. And you find the log eventually and you say, oh shit, it's been spewing this error for months, warning me that it's going to eventually run out of space or, it needs to have its database cleaned up or whatever, and you're just like, God damn it, But like that sort of thing, like AI is so good at. So that's the part of this where I think because we don't have monitoring really, we'll be able to shine. But the other thing that we'll be able to do, I think, a little bit faster at the same time, and it kind of goes into the thing we were talking about a moment ago with this whole like open session idea. We pushed a bug fix a few weeks ago that made our CPU usage go down like a factor of 10. It was this really dumb bug internal to .NET that was causing a lot of memory allocations and a lot of CPU churn for all the telemetry we were sending. And once we resolved that, it it gave us a lot more headroom in each instance to do a lot more. So that being said, the conversation I had with the developers today was we've always wanted to get rid of the current way that we do inventory, which is kind of like this background job that you don't really see. And we run all the inventory scripts that you see in the script editor sort of to the computer, like that pulls from that, and the software inventory pulls from that. But well, not really in a fresh session. We actually refresh it just to make sure I have the latest one right at that point. But anyway, the point is, I really wanted it to get rid of that and instead replace that with a detection only session that we run periodically because inventory runs during the detection only sessions anyway. So if we did that and we found a way to hide it from the UI unless you wanted to see it so that doesn't like clog up, the UI with every, detection only session that was run just for inventory purposes, then what you get is the ability to query on what's like actually missing. Because right now, if we do inventory right now, it would say we discover 7-zip is out of date. Okay, we don't actually discover 7-zip is out of date. All we know is what version of 7-zip you have. We're not doing anything with it. But in a detection session, we will go out and look at what the latest version of 7-zip is to determine if you're, if you're behind, and that becomes actionable, like we can query against that and say, oh yeah, look, 7-zip is out of date on like all of your computers, which we're not doing right now, which is like really dumb. So in order to get there, though, one of the prereqs that we're going to be doing soon is we're going to be moving the dynamic version lookups to a central service and caching it with like a TTL of about an hour. Because if we start running those dynamic version scripts to scrape the latest version from the vendors, we'll probably get our IPs blocked pretty quick, because that was because of the frequency at which we would be doing it. So we're initiating that project, and that'll unlock our ability to do that detection only session all the time, which then unlocks our ability to show you what's actually behind across all your computers, right? And then you can start taking actions very quickly against that. So anyway, it's a lot of good stuff has been happening, and all this is unlocked because of this stupid CPU thing we figured out finally. And so yeah, like I'm really, really pumped that we're going to start shipping features again and not just work on RBAC for a year.
That that sounds like almost a replacement of dynamic version scripts.
Kind of. Well, the thing that excites me most about this is like the first toe in to getting PowerShell scripts running out of process, which is like the next biggest, memory and CPU hog. So in order to do this, we'll have to abstract out the Metascript engine so that it can be shared by the central service, and it can start running these scripts. Now, of course, some of the dynamic version scripts, like the Sentinel one uses invoke IMMY command inside the script to gather was it installed with a 3 number or a 4 number version, so that way we can appropriately recommend the right installer. It's like we have to do some dumb stuff like that in certain ones, but we'll identify those and we'll just say, okay, this one still needs to run on the instance, and we'll have like a different script type or context that we introduce. So all the ones that can be moved will be moved, and then those will be happening centrally, and then the ones that need to reach into the machine to do whatever, we'll do. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting, I think. I'm excited to finally get this underway.
Is the plan so like we write for our MSP partners, if there's not a software in ImmyBot, we write dynamic version scripts generally for them to scrape the websites and everything. Would
Yep.
we be able to, in this new process, be able to define, hey, this is how you do this in what you're talking about, or would that be a completely ImmyBot controlled thing?
It would still be completely ImmyBot controlled, but that kind of goes into me wanting to have the notion of pull requests for global items. So if you do have something in your local repo that you want to share with the class, then instead of having to say, hey guys, put a script on GitHub, go copy it or whatever, it could just be okay, yeah, we'll code review it, we'll make sure it's good, we can accept it into global, and if you need to make changes to it in the future, just do another PR against it. And what would the contention there is we're not sure if we want to do it with like a literal GitHub like Git repo, which necessitates that we just put all of our scripts publicly on GitHub, or we try to maintain who gets access to that repo, like out of our contributors or whatever. But the argument is, well, anybody can sign up for a trial and dump your global repo, and I'm like, fair. So it's a little bit of on that, but it's it could work. But I don't know. I could argue it either way. I don't want to look. We've spent multiple 3-hour conversations trying to drag this thing out, and I do not want to rehash it again. But we will find an answer to this, so that way you guys can help maintain the stuff in global as you want to contribute things.
Sweet. Okay, we're coming up on time. If you could go ahead and put in the chat, like, what are the top 3 things that if Immy could do for you, you would go to your CEO and say, let's dump our RMM. That's what I want from the class. And while you do that,
I have a question for the class too that I want to get answered.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Wait. Before you derail us, I'll give my 2 quick announcements. One, if you or someone has had trouble with other remote access tools in the past couple of weeks, and you need ImmyBot to assist you in additional remote licenses, let me know. Secondly, we have an open position if you know any friends that are front-end software developers ImmyBot needs to hire a really, really smart front-end software developer. So tell your friends if you know anyone. All right, Darren, take us on a tangent.
Okay. So the strategic question here, because we got kind of a divided class internally in terms of like what our direction should be. And we have is should we continue going down the path of introducing feature parity with the RMM, where our customers ultimately want to replace the RMM with ImmyBot, right? So that means focusing more on features like monitoring and things like that. Or should we focus instead on the stuff we're already good at, really, really dial in, like, in really what it is how hard are we going to chase this AI thing? Because I want to introduce this whole like ticket triage feature, and I want AI to be able to help read failing session logs inside of ImmyBot and be able to help assist you with setting up ImmyBot, creating deployments, all those things, kind of building on top of what we already do. Or should we focus our effort more on just building the shit that everybody else has so you could switch off of your RMM, right? Like, what would be more valuable?
One for AI. Put in the chat AI or RMM. Oh, Enrique, you are thinking so highly of us. We pretty much build things and then we give it to people for free for a second to test it, and then we figure out the pricing model.
Is anyone else not a member of the chat? You can't type.
Oh no.
That's weird.
Y'all hate me. Got it. Understood.
Yeah, what the heck? Hang on. Oh, let me see if I can change your.
And I presented this as if these things are mutually exclusive. They're not, but sometimes when you get into these high level conversations, like, well, what are we going to focus on? I'm like, we have more than one person. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do think there's some easy wins on the AI front that to be had, and part of that is finally surfacing the MCP server I demonstrated to you guys. Actually, just rebased that branch a few days ago. I'm going to split it up. So one of the things that I thought that's been a problem is for you guys who use Roost, the way you have to set up the API connection from Roost to ImmyBot is frankly embarrassing. The way it needs to work is more like how Ninja does it, where you essentially create an app inside of Ninja, or like the way you do it against Azure AD. You create some sort of app reg, you get a client ID and secret, or you could do a complete OAuth flow where you just say, all right, yeah, I consent to the following scopes, and then boom, and then there's handshake just sort of happens, and then all the secrets are magically placed where they need to go in both systems by the power of like OAuth 2. Um, so MCP kind of requires that you have that OAuth 2 and then some. And I had built all that out, but it was like overfitted to just the MCP use case. So what I did is I scaled it back a little bit and said, okay, what if we just had a OAuth clients area inside of ImmyBot where you'd be able to go and create an app, or you maybe don't even need to. You would initiate it, say, if I could get the Roost guys on board, which I'm sure they would be, say, hey, look, we're going to redo how we do the API instead of having them go and create this like fake person and then associate it to this manually created enterprise app and Intra. What if you guys just asked for their ImmyBot instance URL? We do the OAuth handshake. Roost would store the API creds on their side, and then you don't even have to worry about like a client AD secret situation. Yeah, Logan, let's see if we can create this average. Yeah, well, that's kind of the question, Logan, is that okay, should we, because we could do that, and that's kind of what we're doing right now, ish, because we're not exposing all the steps through Entra. Because in order for me to do the MCP thing, we had to act as the authority and as our own sort of what do they call it? SA or AS, authentication server. And we then had to have our own listing of app IDs. And the reason for that is that Entra doesn't support the dynamic client registration that's required by remote MCP auth, which is annoying. They should, maybe, but then I could easily see the first thing sysadmin's doing is disabling the ability for users to dynamically register because they don't want like every AI tool in the world just like showing up there. So in order for me to do that, I had to implement that inside of IMMY, and then you would see it inside of there. But there is a world where we create that and then we redirect to Entra, and then once Entra approves it, then we bounce it back and then we redirect it again. And that's actually how I implemented it the first time, but we still had to have this sort of like proxy app in the middle.
I think I would personally prefer the formalized version of now, leaning on the Entra app, but yeah, the dynamic registration thing is definitely a major pain.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, I want people to be able to consume Emmy like as an MCP server, right? Like whatever you're. Eventually, I want Emmy to be inside of like the Anthropic and the OpenAI marketplace, so you could just like, oh, we got a connector to that, boop boop boop, and then just like wire it all up. But I need to get all the I need to do off like the right way for that to work. I think it would also be sick if we exposed it as like an MCP app where the parts of our interface could show up in the chat and you could just like click the things that you needed to click. And I'm also fascinated by this whole like web MCP thing where you just add a few like standardized attributes to your HTML for the things that you want like an agent to be able to do, and then it could just like invoke JavaScript directly on the page. Like that would be really cool too, and it kind of fits really nicely with this initiative I've been working on for the last year, which is like this whole end-to-end testing thing with Playwright. So yeah, I got a lot I want to do because I feel like every day AI is getting more capable, and it's like all this minutia of having clicked through interfaces is like going to go away quickly, and there's this like renaissance of CLIs and it, I kind of feel bad for people who are like handicapped and need like accessibility stuff because now all that stuff is getting pushed to the forefront only because AI needs it, you know. But at least they're getting it now finally.
That's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. Okay, we are at time. I will let people go. Join us April 1st for our April community call. Thank you all for your feedback, and I hope that you got updates that you need and feel better better equipped to handle your day with Emmy. Derek and Darren, I'll send you the recap of the chat so you can talk to the teams about what we've learned today. But with that being said, thank you all and have a great day.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.